Ladies and gentlemen, this is your final boarding call for the good ship SS Tomorrow.
Today on The Friendly Futurist, we discuss a new way of having an anonymous ID secured on the blockchain with special guest Humpty from Ontology. And welcome back. And today's episode is what I really love about blockchain and the blockchain revolution that's coming to the world, because I really love, particularly this project we're going to talk about today, is Ontology and OntID. Yes, there is a coin available, and yes, there is ways of securing your identity on the blockchain. And this can potentially be for other things other than just securing a DeFi loan or something like that. You know, if you're a politically compromised person, if you're a refugee, you need to seek safety in another country, having something like this will be an alternative to having a Red Cross passport again across the border. I'm really, really excited about it. This is the evolution for what people started in Estonia. Estonia in 2005 has the e-residency, which is basically a backdoor into the EU. It now enables non-European digital natives to go work and set up a business inside Europe. And I'd like to see, probably in 5-10 years' time, the way things are trending, and when the very fabric of society is really questioned by blockchain technology, we have the emergence of blockchain societies and blockchain nations. And this is just a small step, I think, into that direction. You might remember me raising this point with Darren last week about having a secure identity tied to the blockchain. So Humpty is coming up after the break. And welcome back. And today we've got Humpty Calderon. And Humpty is the Director of Communications over in Ontology, which is a blockchain startup based in California. Hi, Humpty. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, can you give us an overview of Ontology and its mission?
Sure. So Ontology is a project that's bringing trust, privacy, and security to Web3 through decentralized identity and data solutions. It has developed several different products with this mission in mind, starting with the Ontology blockchain, OntID, OScore, the Onto wallet, and Wing Finance, just to mention a few.
So right up to now, is cost the biggest barrier to entry for blockchain technology?
Well, I think that there is a cost associated, in terms of a financial cost that plays as a barrier for people to enter blockchain technology. But honestly, from my personal experience, I think that one of the things that is acting as the biggest barrier or hurdle for people to understand what it is education. I think that there is a need for more education that is accessible to people who are interested in wanting to learn more. I think that there's a few projects that are doing a good job at that, Ontology included, in terms of the different touch points that it's created for its community to learn what is Ontology, learn what is decentralized identity. But there is definitely a need for more of that, and just generally for Web3, in my opinion, for it to grow.
What is the purpose behind OntID?
So OntID is actually based on the Open Decentralized Identity Protocol, which is a W3C standard. And so that is used for people to safely manage their digital identity, to be able to use that to sign into applications and to selectively provide identity proof to identity verifiers or dApps, for instance. And the really interesting thing about what Ontology has done with OntID is it allows for people to very easily create their digital identity. So when someone uses Onto Wallet as an example, when they create a wallet, you automatically create along with that your decentralized identity or your OntID. And you can use that OntID to be able to sign into applications, but more importantly, you can use that to leverage it to create your decentralized credit score, if you will, which is called O-Score.
Can you elaborate on what the O-Score is all about?
O-Score, yeah. So O-Score is a self-sovereign credit protocol that allows you to leverage your on-chain activity, so your transactions, amongst other signals, for DeFi protocols to be able to provide you with under-collateralized loans. So really revolutionary in the DeFi market.
Is this a direct response in which users' data was and still is commodified in Web 2.0?
So in terms of like how data is used today in Web 2.0, you look at some of these, different products like Facebook or Google, where you are allowed to use these products for free. But what ends up happening on the back end is all of the data that you are producing is being harvested by these institutions. And they leverage this data in many different ways, right? They learn identifiable information from you, just from your historical record using their products. But then they also go on and monetize this. And so they take this data and make money from your personal information. And, while you may have agreed to it in the terms and conditions of these products, I don't think that you're necessarily, wanting them to leverage this information in the way that they are. And I don't think that these transactions or this use case is very transparent either. So what decentralized identity and data aims to do is it allows for people to own their identity, to own their data, and to be able to then allow for either individual projects or dApps to use this as they allow. So they basically control who can use this information. Furthermore, if they wish to monetize that, they could monetize that as well instead of someone else monetizing that information for them.
So what you're saying, OntID is another way to weeding out fraudsters, scammers, and other black hats online.
Yeah, so it's interesting. In terms of what decentralized identity is able to do, it certainly allows for individuals to have their own digital identity. And using that digital identity, or more importantly, the reputation behind that digital identity as a way to weed out, as you said, these fraudsters, scammers, and other people that are doing nefarious things, on Web 2, for instance, or potentially even Web 3. So you're able to use your digital identity, your decentralized identity, as a way to implement anti-Sybil processes onto your projects and protocols.
Very interesting concept there, Humpty. But how far really can we take the concept of digital identity? Is there a feasibility out there of creating virtual nations using blockchain? In a similar vein to Estonia's e-residency program right now.
So that's interesting, right? Because I think, first of all, Web3 it covers so many different areas of interest of decentralization, starting with DeFi, these decentralized markets, NFTs with intellectual property rights for individuals, and DAOs with people organizing in a decentralized way to work towards common goals using some sort of incentive structure, treasury that is shared by the group. I think right now we're seeing a lot of really interesting experimentation going on where people are coming together and organizing and leveraging, these shared goals and using this shared piggy bank, if you will, through these treasuries that they have, because a lot of these DAOs are tokenized, to solve some really interesting problems. It wouldn't surprise me that at some point in the future, it would go as far as maybe decentralizing cities and states and maybe even countries. I think that a lot of the experimentation could lead to that. And it's encouraging to see different local governments opening that up. The state of Wyoming has created the legal framework for DAOs to be recognized business entities in Wyoming. The city of Miami opening up their city, I believe it's their mayor that's leading these initiatives for projects to come in and build with this type of, revolutionary goals in mind.
I can also see the potential of humanitarian applications here. Say, for example, you're a refugee or someone else needs some sort of kind of identity to get across that border. So you can decide to live in another country. I think that's really something that's secure and easily accessible. On the subject of fraud and intellectual property, how does OntID help the creative community sell NFTs?
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of like digital IP, that's a really interesting one. So I'll give you an example. There's this product or this project called Rocky on Binance Smart Chain, and they are leveraging Ontology's digital identity suite. So OntID, OntTag, which is the trust anchor gateway, amongst a few other protocols. And they're using that so that they can verify their creators. So Rocky is a music NFT platform. And to protect these creators from anybody who may be caught trying to join the project and pretend to be one of these creators and selling their music on the blockchain, they're utilizing this technology to verify the identity of the creators so they can then start using the platform. So that's one way, right? And how OntID can be used to both help the creators, but also help the collectors. Because on the other end, you could imagine that if somebody was interested in supporting their favorite artist and they started selling their music as NFTs and they bought those NFTs, but they learned later that that creator wasn't really, or that person wasn't who they claimed to be. In other words, they weren't the original creator of that music. Then, that person who collected those NFTs, those that music representation on the blockchain, what is the value of that really? Because one, it really isn't coming from the source and it isn't authentic. So it's important that this technology both support the creators, but the collectors as well by utilizing this to verify their identity.
As this podcast is about the future, how would you envision the world in 2032?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to be an optimist here and really try to imagine the world if, Web3 continues to evolve and grow and gain adoption, and these decentralized systems as well. What I would like to see would be for more people to leverage these decentralized systems. And what I mean by that is, have more people onboarded into this ecosystem where they are now not using products that are necessarily harvesting their information. They're not using products that are monetizing them where they are the product, but instead where they can truly own their identity. They can leverage that identity to take part in everything from DeFi to NFTs to DAOs, and then are rewarded for their activity.
What else is driving your curiosity right now?
Being the head of community ontology, it's in the title, it's community. So I'm always interested in new and novel ways that communities are organizing and collaborating. And so one of the things that is truly interesting to me and inspires me every day are DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations. And while they're not decentralized or autonomous yet, there are many different projects that are building really interesting things by leveraging the power of community and really creating some interesting incentives for people to contribute to, a mission that's larger than themselves. So for me, that's probably where I am most interested in. Again, really what's driving it is community.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what this whole show's about. It's not just the tech. It's about how it affects society. How does it improve the lives of people around it? Yeah. Do you have any more examples you want to shout out to? Any exciting projects from over there?
Yeah, there's a few that I tend to, navigate or participate in most. And one of those is Gitcoin DAO. So Gitcoin is a platform where developers can, like they say, get coin or earn for their contributions. They've recently decentralized and they're building some really interesting applications for both developers, communities, to build interesting things, to contribute to projects that they like, and to participate in this Web3 ecosystem. The other one is Bankless DAO, and really that was inspired and founded by the Bankless Media Company, which is a Web3 native media group. And what they've done is that they're really trying to decentralize the media space so that individuals can create content that helps in the education of Web3 and creating these incentives models for people to be rewarded for their contributions as well.
Wow, that's really exciting news, especially for content creators like me. That's really fascinating. Finally, where else can we find you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter's where I'm most active at Humpty Calderon. And so that's usually where I'm at. I'm usually sharing the things that are interesting to me, whether it's DeFi, NFTs, or DAOs. And really where I also share a lot of the different touch points that I'm building for Ontology and its community, whether it's on Twitter Spaces or sharing links to events that I'm hosting on Clubhouse, or some of the regular community calls that I have with the Ontology community on Discord.
I'll make sure these are in the show notes, Humpty. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this morning.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
And a very thank you very much for Humpty for his input. And listen out on New Year's Day, as we're having the Chief Scientist of Western Australia, Professor Peter Clinken, in the studio. We're going to have a good old chat about a whole much potential in this great state which I live. We're talking about everything from renewable energies right through to having mission control technology, which NASA themselves are chatting to WA mining companies, and to potential for carbon storage and space. So much potential here, and I really think it's a good advertisement for Western Australia as we're coming out of the post-pandemic world. And also stick around on the following day where I have the top 5 predictions and trends to look out for 2022. These are all independently sourced journalists. I'm not going through some wild conspiracy stage. This is what I've found online with some verifiable, credible sources that say the things we should look out for moving into the new year. And if I don't hear from you, have a happy new year. May 2022 be the best one ever. Friendly Futurist is a Podcast West production. It's produced and edited by me, Dave Monk. Further editing by Alvin Listener. If you love this show, find us on your favourite podcast platform and give us a 5-star review. Hit that like bell, hit that following so you can grow the community and get the word out there to everyone who shares your innate curiosity for where the world is heading. Because this is what it's all about. It's for you, not just for me, it's for you. And if you really love the show, you can donate via Buy Me a Coffee, details in the show notes, and also look out for my monthly newsletter. Until next time, friends, remember to stay curious and the future is user-friendly.
Another Podcasts West production.